This episode is being brought to you by Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Alaska Realty. Whether you're investing in residential, buying or selling commercial properties anywhere in the state of Alaska, we're here to assist. To reach us, you can contact me at lottie@lottiemichael.com or my cell phone, 907-242-7603. And for comments or questions about residential properties, reach out to Connie Yoshimura at 907-229-2703, 229-2703. Hello, and welcome to the Connie and Lottie Real Estate Podcast. I'm really pleased today that we have Bob Doehl from the Municipality of Anchorage here with us today to discuss the Anchorage housing market and the economy in general, as well about regarding housing. So, Bob, welcome. What is it that you do? Well, first of all, let's start with your title. What is your title officially?
Well, thank you for having me here. I'm the Director of Community and Economic Development for the Municipality of Anchorage.
What does that mean?
As the Director of Community and Economic Development, I like to think of it as kind of on the front end in terms of building our community, building our economy, and building buildings and housing to go with that. Functionally, that means I oversee Development Services Department, which includes building safety and what's called the private development folks who help you when you need to do a subdivision. I oversee the planning department that deals with what you need to do so you've had the permission to use the land for that in the first place and be consistent with law. And also the real estate department who holds the municipality's land and makes it available for development and housing and other purposes.
So you have this entire building?
I like to say I have the important part. More exactly, I have the part that really focuses on that community and growth part. The other part is Department of Public Works that we partner closely with. They do your street maintenance, your street rebuilds, and a lot of other municipal projects. The development by private owners of the land and private developers, though, that's me, Community Economic Development.
Oh, right. Okay. So how did you get this position? What's your background?
That's a long and winding road that got me to this point. In November, I started in this position for Mayor LaFrance coming in. Previous to that, I had been involved in development in different areas across my career. When I was in the military in the early 2000s, after the law passed requiring Kulis Air National Guard Base to be shut down at the airport and to move on to Elmendorf for that unit, I was involved in that transition in the building and construction for about a 1,500-person organization using 30 aircraft and building hangars and office buildings, warehouses, and everything else you could imagine. Also was involved with when we combined Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson and combining those development and construction functions, since it had to operate as one base under the Air Force rather than two bases with two very different systems. And kind of fast forward through some other positions. While 4 years at the state, I was involved with redevelopment of armories across 80 communities in rural Alaska. And then it got easier when I came here in 2019 as the building official for the Municipality of Anchorage. Over in the Development Services Department, I was the person who directly oversaw the building safety inspectors and plan reviewers to make sure our houses were safe, affordable, and resilient, and also worked with the finding solutions so we could go forward when the regulations and codes in place didn't quite meet the conditions on the ground, and finding out how we could meet the intent of those so we could go forward and get stuff done. And before coming here, I worked for Rasmussen Foundation involved primarily in rural housing projects, making them affordable, and also in town here assisting in doing what we called hotel conversions into apartments, where we created over 330 new living units in Anchorage.
I think that was an excellent idea, really. So I congratulate you and the Rasmussen Foundation for getting that done. So what are some of the challenges that you're facing now? Let's talk a little bit about Title 21. Maybe I remember, because I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission with Title 21 was going into effect, and all the arguments we had over, how many windows and where the light was going to come into the houses and all that sort of thing. I feel that the Title 21 that was enacted was a sort of a negative reaction to some of the building problems that we've had prior up to and including that period of time. What's going to happen to Title 21 now? You've done a lot of changes as far as making it, as far as designs are concerned, making it a little bit easier, don't you think?
Well, first I want to thank you for volunteering for Planning and Zoning Commission. It's volunteers from the community that are so important that when we go forward with Title 21 and other parts of municipal government, it is in sync with the needs of the community. And Title 21, we have made changes, as you pointed out, with taking a pause on design standards till we can come with those that are more functional. Right now, we have just introduced I call it the spring housekeeping bill for Title 21. It's an assembly ordinance that will take care of a lot of the inconsistencies where something is referred to differently or confusingly in Title 21. And the problem is with different people changing Title 21 at different times, you get apparently two different ways of talking about the same thing. And that's a problem when you actually have to do something with a parcel of land and it isn't clear which way to go. And that problem costs you time, it costs your money to resolve. So right now we have the spring cleaning bill up before the assembly, which is really just to address inconsistencies or confusing language in Title 21. Going forward, we're going to continue to explore ways to make housing and other and other uses more consistent, more predictable. Probably the biggest challenge is predictable in terms of going forward, and then making sure we don't put in standards that don't make sense for where we are here and now in terms of going forward to meet the expectations of our long-range or comprehensive plan.
But it is the bottom line, we need more land, need more residential land for development.
We need several things. I'd say residential land, we need to keep and grow our population, and we need money to develop that residential land. We certainly need to develop more residential land and find ways to develop it. That's why the municipality has 3 open offerings right now involving substantial tracts of land in Midtown, East Anchorage, and down by Potter Valley. So we're going for that, and we're looking for other opportunities to develop land. So developing land is key. You need the space available. You also need the money to develop it. Roads, sewers, water, gas, electricity. It costs money to put all those in. We were talking about a project this morning where we're projecting $1,800 a foot to build road to going into a new subdivision. So you live in the space, but
Right.
I think it's important people realize that costs money. And for a 2,000-foot road, you're looking at real money even before you get to the lot.
Right. And that offsite infrastructure is what a developer can't afford to do. We can afford to put the road and the water and the sewer, the gas and electric, if we can have lots on that road. But to just put in a road just to get to that, or water or sewer, that's not affordable for us. And I think that's part of the stalemate. So is there any opportunity for the municipality to actually invest in offsite infrastructure?
We continue to explore how we can do that and find ways to do it. The Anchorage Water and Wastewater Utility now is doing these cooperative partnerships for development where they need to expand, which has led to some great developments. Cordova, there were some lots that when I was here 5 years ago, we could not get water to them, so they could not be developed. They have cracked the code to that now. So in partnership with the developer, those lots can be developed. So we're doing that. We're also not going to pass up the lots that already have those things, those infill lots where the problem is a structure on it that is prohibitive to remove. And we have different ways of working with a owner who intends to remove and replace on those to offset the what can be expensive demolition cost, particularly an older building where you have to deal with hazardous materials.
We had yesterday at our sales meeting, we had a well-recognized home inspector. And because part of the problem that we have now is our aging housing stock, which is now 43 or 44. That's the average age. And so a lot of them didn't have codes. I mean, we've opened up older homes and found newspapers for insulation. or you take down the paneling and there's nothing there between the studs, right? So those are all issues that we have to deal with. But what was interesting is he said health and safety is a made-up phrase that home inspectors use, because really everything goes back to what's code and what's not code, right? So the question really is, a house, let's say, that was built in 1983 has a different set of codes versus a house that was built in 2013 or 2023. When the market is evaluating that house, do they have to follow the code when it was built, or do they have to follow the new code? For example, stairs and balusters, right? How does that work? We want to take a quick moment to thank Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Alaska Realty for supporting this episode. One of the things we appreciate about our team is that our agents do far more than open a door. We help clients understand neighborhoods, evaluate investment opportunities, navigate commercial leases, prepare homes for sale, and make smart long-term real estate decisions. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or a growing business looking for office space, or a national or international Fortune 500 company exploring opportunities in Alaska, we're here to facilitate and help you. Visit Berkshire Hathaway Home Services AlaskaRealty.com to connect with Lottie Michael at 907-242-7603 or Connie Yoshimura at 907-229-2703.
Which is a famous topic of discussion. We get calls on at least monthly in the summer when a building with an older structure and that space between the balusters is written up. What's important is the code that was in effect at the time it was built. That is what controls what is required then, and the standard we would look holding it to. If you're going to do a major renovation and remove what was there and put in something new, well, then we're going to look to the newer standard. Okay. But as long as the older piece is there and being used, that is the code in 1983 or 1963, whenever it was put there.
I wish you can. I'm going to record that part. Well, I am recording that part because that's so important, because that's not what home inspectors say and do, and that's certainly not what the buying public expects. They expect it to be built to today's code, and that simply is not possible.
Well, with today's code, you get a phenomenal product. It's going to be better insulated. You're going to generally there's more opportunities with the newer technology. You do things that can hold up better. It's not going to have an aged look. But the requirement from a code perspective, if you're living in that 60-year-old house and a building inspector for the municipality comes in, he's just looking to see, is it consistent with what was the code back then?
We're going to say that loud and clear, because that's not what a variety of home inspectors or a variety of buyers actually expect. So I'd like to talk to you about rental housing versus home ownership. Because what I see is, we just talked earlier that we have 400 housing units, but only 100 of them would be classified as single family. I'm a home ownership advocate, whether it's a condo, an entry-level condo, or a renovated older home, or a luxury home. We need more home ownership. And what I don't see is the municipality doing anything to promote home ownership. So how does that work? What could be done to promote home ownership more than just rental housing?
So we recognize the opportunities that come with home ownership and developing equity in a property that you pay for monthly rather than just rent. With that equity comes greater wealth accumulation over time. There's a study out there that shows that lifetime renters will have something like $6,000 in value to themselves over their lifetime by the time they move on, versus like 200 and something thousand for those people who are homeowners. So we recognize there's a huge difference. There's also a difference in terms of how you interact with the community, because when you have equity, you're a shareholder, you're bought in, you care about it, you're more engaged, which is so important as we build the community going forward. We've been doing things trying to lower the price of housing in general. In particular, though, to the question you asked about, we're rolling out 2 new proposals shortly by the administration. One is a first-time home buyer tax abatement. So if you're a new home buyer and you're going to buy a new house, we will provide a certain number of years where you will not pay property tax to the municipality on that.
That's a huge benefit. And you could couple that with the AHFC $10,000 for the 5-star plus. And you've also just simply made houses significantly more affordable. Yes.
Well, that's our goal. And also to try to encourage that path to ownership, because that importance of building wealth for you and also your family, it becomes intergenerational opportunity. The other thing we're doing in that regard, we talked about new homes. If you look around Anchorage, there's a lot of buildings that aren't newer, but still have useful life left in them. And we're pursuing another tax abatement or tax relief for those who take one of these older buildings, make it multi-purpose with at least 8 units of housing and condoize it. So if you want to buy a condo in an existing building in a more built-up area, we're also working on a path for, as you accumulate equity there, we'll make it more affordable by providing relief on your taxes you'd otherwise pay the municipality.
I think that's an excellent idea, and I'd be a strong supporter of that. Do you need the assembly to approve it? Can you simply do it administratively? Do you have to have the public input? What do you have to do to give that tax abatement to first-time home buyers?
The short answer is 2 out of 3 of the items you just mentioned. The first one is, although the administration can propose this, the assembly must approve it. It is allowed under state law, but the assembly must approve. And what is required for anything of this import is public involvement and public participation and engagement. The public needs to understand what we're doing, why we're doing, and they need to weigh in if they think it's a good idea to allow thousands more Anchorage residents to become homeowners.
As opposed to renters.
As opposed to renters or moving outside. The net population loss is also something that's always on the front of our mind, either those moving up to the valley where housing costs are sometimes less expensive, although you pay more in gas, or those just moving outside because of our higher housing costs.
Right. So what we've talked about infrastructure and the needs for more off-site infrastructure, and we've talked about the need for more land. All right. But when I was coming in, I saw this poster about all these parks, right? And we have more parks per capita right now than any other city our size. So it's disappointing to me to see why we have to have all these parks memorialized, so to speak, to be forever. Because a lot of these parks are like neighborhood parks, right? There's a block or a half a block or whatever. And they have gas to them, they have electric to them, they have roads, they have water and sewer. That would be a very expensive townhouse project to create. So why do we have to have all these parks? More parks, right? Why do we have to memorialize them?
So a dedicated park is a vote by the people that they want to park in this place for quality of life. And you're right, it's a great place to build. On the other hand, it's also important that we can provide that space that the people of Anchorage have decided they want there. To redevelop those parks, it would similarly require a vote of the people of Anchorage not to have that park there. And we haven't experienced a demand signal to go in that direction. Those dedicated parks is a desire to keep them there. There are opportunities to vacate parkland. However, it's a long, deliberate process to make sure the public understands what they're doing and why. And we're not receiving input from the public that there's a desire to go in that direction at this time.
What about when a school closes? What happens to that land? What happens to that building?
So that's a great question and very apropos. We're exploring with the school district now as they are closing schools what the options are. There are some rights of first refusal in terms of charter schools if it's that have kind of that first opportunity. But beyond that, we're exploring with the school district what that looks like for both the buildings, many of which are older, and the land on which they sit. And that's a work in progress, though, but we're very interested in redevelopment opportunities.
So recently in the Matsu Borough, UAA is selling, I think, 8 or 9 parcels. And there are not RFPs out, but there's letters of interest for developers to participate. And then on June 24th, there has to be show sort of a plan for it. Are there more opportunities for Anchorage to participate in something like that? I heard that there were potentially other parcels of land owned by the state that could be acquired by the city. Are we going to see some, in general, are we going to see some transfer of lands that are held by public entities, whether it's UAA, the state of Alaska, the Mental Health Trust, or that have land, right? Is there a trend because of the need for more housing to perhaps some of these entities to start disposing of some of the land?
That is a great question. Governor Dunleavy has also recognized the necessity of making land available for housing. Two of the entities you pointed out, the University of Alaska System and the Alaska Mental Health Trust Authority, they have specific mandates on how they can dispose of land to make sure it meets. They have to get some sort of compensation for the underlying purposes of either funding the university system or providing mental health services in Alaska. As to other parcels that the state owns in Anchorage, there are very active ongoing discussions about which ones can be made available for development and the mechanisms for doing so.
We need land. I think we do have land. It's just not in the hands of those that can develop it, right?
Right. We look forward to finding ways to do that, and that is an active and ongoing discussion with Governor Dunleavy and his staff.
So my final question to you is, do you ever go to the Matsu? Do you ever think about what it is they're doing out there? They have, in the last 6 months, 250 single-family building permits. We have about 100 single-family building permits. Do you ever think in all of your discussions with the administration and with the assembly, do you ever talk about what's going on out there and how we can compete better?
We do, and I think you can't go to a lot of places in Alaska without going through Wasilla. Yeah, I mean, it is on a highway. There isn't a bypass. There are different ways if you want to take the quick way to Fairbanks or go up and enjoy Denali or something like that.
Okay.
So we all go through there. They have the advantage of age, and with that goes with less development in place at this point. So they have the land available, which is the greatest asset up there.
Yes.
Where we have to compete with that is we're an economic driver. We have to compete with that in terms of a higher quality of life, making sure that we do everything we can to increase affordability, and making this the place where people want to live, work, play, to use an older slogan we've all heard. And that has to be a deliberate part of it, as besides Mayor LaFrance talks about 10,000 new homes, we also pursue safer streets and public places. We address law enforcement concerns where they are, like you're seeing downtown now with the walking patrols. We also get after that park places do what we can with trail improvements and other things we know is why people want to live in Anchorage. They want the trail system. They probably want a more vibrant downtown than you're going to get in Wasilla. And we have to provide those things to them and work across the board for development. We can't solve making Anchorage more competitive just with building more housing units. We have to address the whole spectrum of desires or needs of our current future residents.
Well, I think that's a great vision, and I want to thank you for all the work and effort. I think it's an honor for ICIMI that you're here with all the things that you've done, and you've renewed my faith in the city of Anchorage. So I want to say thank you very much, Bob.
Well, thank you, but it's an honor working with you and the other members of the industry again, who are the ones to get stuff done.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Berkshire Hathaway Home Services Alaska Realty for sponsoring this episode. If you're thinking about buying, selling, or investing in the great state of Alaska, be sure to contact us. Connie Yoshimura at 907-229-273, or for commercial activity, Galati Michael, CCIM at 907-242-7603.